The year is 2003, and our protagonist here is none other than 12-year-old Magnus Carlsen, as he made its way into history books with this just extraordinary game. And even today, I mean, it's considered one of his most brilliant games according to the database. Now, this one is quite a popular one, you might have seen it before, but if you haven't, I'm honestly jealous of you, because seeing this for the first time is just amazing. It's played in the Under 14 World Championship, and his opponent was actually Norwegian. He was Jon Ludvig Hammer. He was actually a good friend of Magnus, and he even helped Magnus Carlsen getting his first world champion title, so overall a very accomplished guy. Now there was quite a rating gap between the two, I mean when you look at it almost 400 points, but yeah, let's just get into it. Hammer here has the white pieces and he starts the game with knight to f3. We have d6 by Magnus, and after d4, knight f6, knight b to d2, we have g6 by Magnus, and he's going for a kind of Indian setup, where he'll just focus on developing his minor pieces, castle, and then worry about contesting the center, with moves like d5 or c5. I mean, sure, he'll kinda hand the center for white, but then, he'll have his pieces positioned in such a way that contesting the center will be easy. So Hammer just seizes the center, since Magnus is pretty much offering it. We have bishop to g7, like I was talking about, and now Hammer worries about his own development. He plays bishop to d3, we have castles by both sides, just putting their kings to safety, and now knight to c6 by Magnus, just putting some pressure here on this e4 pawn. Because, okay, well, while this pawn is protected for the moment, it's just a matter of time till Magnus moves his knight, opens this bishop, and creates some serious threats to this d4 pawn. But as the saying goes, while a clever person solves the problems, a wise person just avoids them overall. So Hammer here just plays c3, and he'll never have to worry about defending this pawn ever again. But not so fast, because here Magnus goes for d5 and reinforces the pressure here against this d4 pawn, while also contesting the center. So, okay, Hammer isn't really worried about it for the moment. He just plays h3 and argues that this white squared bishop for Magnus here is just terrible. Like, he cannot develop him to g4 now. It's been taken away by the pawn. Cannot develop into f5, neither to e6. For example, bishop e6, just d5, and yeah, GGO. Developing to d7 is just sad. Like, he's just not doing anything, almost. So here Magnus Carlsen goes for another plan. He takes away this knight to h5, and now he really is putting pressure here on this d4 pawn, like I was talking about. So Hammer finally decides to take this pawn and exchanges his central pressure here, but Magnus doesn't retake this pawn immediately. First, he plays knight to f4 and he starts making his magic. Because, okay, Hammer has to do something, he cannot take this pawn, for example, otherwise his bishop here just hangs, so he moves this bishop, but this is not, bishop to b5 isn't that good of a move. Believe it or not, bishop to c4 would have been a much better move, and you'll see why in just a second. Because here Magnus finally retakes his pawn, we have knight takes on e5, knight takes on e5, looking to exchange some pieces, because perhaps he's smelling that his attack is coming, but here, believe it or not, Magnus doesn't take the piece. He doesn't play the obvious move immediately. Here he plays queen to g5, and now we start seeing why bishop to b5 might have not been a good move. If the bishop was on c4, the knight could just come back to g4, and yeah, everything would be safe. Because Magnus here is threatening mate. Also, perhaps knight takes on h3 is coming, because after all, the pawn is just pinned, right? So yeah, Hammer has to be quite careful here. Plays knight to g4, blocking the mate. But again, now the bishop is hanging. If the bishop was on c4, none of this would have happened. Hammer here plays knight to b3, looking to unclog his position, because it opens this bishop, it attacks this very annoying knight. But the knight just gets in even further. Here Magnus plays knight to e2, being supported by the queen. This comes with a check, so here we have king to h1. But now Magnus plays bishop takes knight here. Bishop takes on g4. And this might strike you as a little bit odd, because in open positions like this one, usually bishops are better than knights, so why did Magnus take it? Well, you'll understand why in a moment. This comes with an evil idea in mind, so yeah, just prepare yourself. Here obviously Hammer has to take it, but now rook 8 to e8. Magnus brings this rook to the open file. He could have also brought this one. It doesn't really matter for the idea that's about to come. Because here Hammer plays bishop to a3 and claims that the knight here is just trapped. The knight can no longer give itself for the bishop, and after something like rook e1, he will just be kind of trapped. Here Magnus plays rook takes pawn, which comes with, like I said, a devious, just devious idea. Prepared, just wait a second. Here, Hammer continued with this naive rook to e1, and he's thinking that the knight is trapped. For example, if the knight tries running away to f4, like I'm sure this is what Hammer thought, he would just play queen f3, and now both of these pieces are attacked. Sure, Magnus would have something like rook e8, protecting the rook. Also, the bishop cannot take, otherwise rook takes rook, and yeah, Hammer would be dead. But Hammer would play knight to d2 here, kick the rook back, and then just queen takes, and he would be doing pretty good. However, after rook to e1 back here, Magnus Carlsen didn't even touch his knight. So what the hell happened here? Turns out Magnus Carlsen found a way to win the game in 2 moves. It's just insane. So yeah, pause the video and find this move that just made its way into history books like it was nothing. Okay, so hope you found it. But yeah, being your first time or not watching this is always amazing. So Magnus Carlsen here played the brilliant, just amazing queen to h5, and the game is just completely over. Like Magnus gave a queen like it's nothing. So the point is that the king is attacked and is completely cut off by this knight. This dying knight here is just the MVP, like for real. The queen is forced to be taken, but now this just makes way for the rook, and yeah, rook to h4 finishes the game in style. It only took 17 moves for Magnus to win a brilliancy like this with just 12 years old. I mean, I honestly have no words for this. It's just stunning. But yeah, after rook to h4, again with this dying knight here, the king is just completely boxed in, and we have a beautiful mate on the board. This pattern with the knight covering these escape squares here, and the rook finishing it off on the h-file is known as the Anastasia mate, and it's a very nice mate, no doubt about that. But yeah, that was another very nice game played by one of the chess legends nowadays when they were younger. And yeah, I made a video on another game played by young Magnus Carlsen. Feel free to check it out if you haven't. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. And if you watched this far, please consider giving a like or subscribing because it helps the channel terribly. I cannot thank you enough. And yeah, catch you on the next one. Bye.